You call your classmates so we can start in 5 minutes. Happy New Year. First group may share screen. Who will present?
Good morning, doctor.
Okay, you may start.
Okay, doctor.
Hello everyone, I am Dongre Anushka from Group 5 and the topic for today is determining the physical and mental health complications of post-COVID myalgia. Introduction. Myalgia is a common symptom in patients with viral infections such as global pandemic COVID-19 virus or coronavirus disease. Myalgia is a muscle pain. We can describe it as muscle pain and or muscle ache. It involves in ligaments, tendons, fasciae, and such soft tissues. Myalgia reflects generalized inflammation and cytokine response and can be the onset symptom caused by COVID-19, longer and more severe than myalgia of other viral infections. When viral load is reduced with virus treatment, muscle pain may decrease. Cytokines here are small secreted proteins and they are both pro-inflammatory and anti-inflammatory. The classic mechanism of myalgia, known in viral infections COVID-19, can cause musculoskeletal pain with completely different mechanism by lactate levels increase due to surplus cell damage during COVID-19 infection. So here the increase in lactate production is usually caused by impaired tissue oxygenation. So let us come to very basic low oxygen levels. In COVID-19 can be early warning sign. So associated with lack of oxygen and increase in lactate can indicate the organs are not functioning properly or there are surplus cell damage. COVID-19 enters the cell by penetrating ACE2 at low cytosolic pH and causes infection in the pulmonary system. The presence of ACE2 has been demonstrated in the brain, kidney, vascular smooth muscle, and skeletal muscle. The musculoskeletal system can undergo infection. The ACE2 receptor here allows the virus that cause COVID-19 to infect and destroy the bodily cells. Scope. This research focuses on the physical and mental health complications of post-COVID myalgia. Research questions. The very first, what is the profile of the respondent in terms of number one, sex, number two, age? Second question, what is the level of respondents, the physical and mental health complications of post-COVID myalgia when grouped according to profile variables? Number three, is there significant difference in respondents, the physical and mental health complications of post-COVID myalgia when grouped according to demographic variables? Demographic variables, like for example, age, gender, sex, male or female. So for For example, like there are some determinant indicators. Like for example, we'll take economic status, how economic status can affect one's physical and mental health. Like physically, it can affect if a person is economically weak, then if he requires any kind of medical help, medical service, which he may not afford, can cause him a physical complication. And mentally, they may encounter any kind of discrimination or kind of criticism, which may affect their mental health. Socio-economic status can affect both. Next, number four, is there significant correlation between the physical and mental health complications of post-COVID myalgia between the respondents? General objective. The general objective of this research is to study the post-COVID complications on both physical and mental health of individuals who recovered from the novel coronavirus. Specific objective number one, to find the prevalence of post-COVID complications on both the physical and mental health of patient. Number two, to explore how different age, gender, and BMI type plays a role as risk factor in a condition. Number three, to spread knowledge and awareness about the complications, treatment plans, and precaution methods. Here, this specific objective, which provides overarching goals and objectives to end this kind of pandemics like COVID-19 and strengthen the global recoveries and readiness for the future pandemic threats. Null hypothesis, it simply means no difference. So there's no significant difference between the physical and mental health complications of post-COVID myalgia. Alternative hypothesis, there is a significant difference between the physical and mental health complications of post-COVID myalgia. Significance of the study. The study would be beneficial to the following group of individuals. Number one, respondents. The research will help the respondent to know the effect on the physical and mental complications of post-COVID myalgia. It will help the students to know the complications far better. Parents, it can aid them to have a better grasp knowledge on the COVID complications. Likewise, they can also learn the link between the physical and mental health complications of post-COVID myalgia. Teacher, this research will also be helpful to teachers because it helps them in knowing the reasons of students lacking knowledge on COVID complication and give the students a better understanding capability. Readers, through this study, they may gain additional knowledge about the physical and mental health complications of post-COVID myalgia. A glimpse of this concept can help the readers to understand this study no matter what stages in life they are presently in. Future researchers, this study could be a basis of further research on the physical and mental health complications of post-COVID myalgia. It may serve as a guide or reference material to those who would like to carry out similar study in future research.
Literature review. Coronavirus disease spread throughout the world, leading to global pandemic. Common characteristics of acute stage of the disease are fever, musculoskeletal symptoms like fatigue, myalgia, and joint pain, dry cough, dyspnea, gastrointestinal symptoms, and anosmia with or without acousia. After viral infection, different types of damage occurs in multiple organs of the body, especially in the brain. Peripheral and central inflammatory responses may be triggered by the infection and lead to a long-lasting musculoskeletal problems, cognitive impairment, and psychological distress. Myalgia is a common symptom in patients with viral infections, such as corona and influenza. Myalgia reflects generalized inflammation and cytokine response. Can be an onset symptom of 36% of patients with COVID-19. Back pain in COVID-19 may usually indicate pneumonia. Decreased ATP synthesis and low intracellular pH causes pain and fatigue. In hyperlactatemia, oxygen carrying capacity of erythrocytes and the transport of oxygen to tissues are highly reduced. If exercising intensely, the musculoskeletal system may remain deoxygenated. Muscles may take place ischemic during COVID-19 infection. Pain may occur in the muscle tissues remaining ischemic with a mechanism similar to sickle cell disease. Neurologic complications have been observed with COVID-19. Myalgia and headache are relatively common, but serious neurological disease appears to be rare. Methods for the research design. The research design is based on observational study, where the participants observed in their natural settings. So research methods used is descriptive studies. collecting all information without manipulating. Methods of sampling used for the population is random sampling. Subjects, there are 200 participants who volunteered in this research design. All participants are from UPHSD. Since the research was done during pandemic time, we gathered all the information throughout the online mode. The ethnicity include only Indians. Data collection methods, survey will collect different ages groups, genders, BMI of 200 patients with post-COVID complications. And though the responses we receive, we would analyze with specific age groups, gender, BMI type are affected. Operational definitions. Myalgia describes muscle aches and pains, which can involve ligaments, tendons, and fascia, the soft tissues that connect muscles, bones, and organs. Injuries, traumas, overuse, tension, certain drugs, and illness can all bring about myalgia. Data processing and analysis. Research was conducted on determining the complication of post-COVID myalgia through an online survey of expecting 200 respondents. The methods for statistical analysis chosen are mean standard deviation, hypothesis testing, and sample size determination. So the questionnaire will be like patient details, including patient details, questionnaire, and breathing, example normal or mild. Here is the graph given for the symptoms complex for the disease with the percentage, which we will use in questionnaire. Here is given dummy tables. It is for the example like gender. Variable is gender. Scale will be dummy 0 to 1. And description will be 0 for the male and 1 for the female. And mean and standard deviation will be given. And age, like for example, age scale will be given from 1 to 6. For example, age categories are 18 to 24, 25 to 34, 35 to 44, 45 to 54, and 55 to 64. The 65 to and above will be given in description, and mean and standard deviation will be according to that.
Interpretation of results. It is observed that myalgia or fatigue were the most common symptoms at the onset of COVID-19 and were observed in about 30 to 50% of the patients and have been reported in 90% of them. Myalgia and fatigue in patients with COVID-19 are longer in duration than other viral infections and are unresponsive to conventional painkillers. According to our observation, when viral load is reduced with a viral treatment, muscle pain may decrease. In addition to this classic mechanism of myalgia known in viral infections, COVID-19 can cause the musculoskeletal pain, which is completely a different mechanism. Post-COVID-19 syndromes develop during or after COVID-19, and these syndromes last more than 12 weeks and are a diagnosis of exclusion. Post-COVID-19 syndromes are being reported more frequently and often include in musculoskeletal symptoms, particularly joint and muscle pain, and typically reported by those having post-COVID-19 syndromes. Musculoskeletal pain as a symptom of COVID-19 causes significant suffering and reduces the quality of life in many of the patients. Treatment of pain in patients with COVID-19 should not be neglected. Conventional treatments for myalgia are varied, including pharmacological agents, non-pharmacological interventions, including psychosocial interventions and exercise therapy, and complementary therapies such as acupuncture and shiatsu. The most commonly used drug for treating musculoskeletal pain are opioids, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, and corticosteroids. In this current pandemic, it is important that clinicians must be aware of the patients who could be presenting with atypical or non-specific symptoms. Awareness of these symptoms or atypical presentations could help to improve the speed of an accurate initial diagnosis and reduce the transmission. Personnel. It means it includes all the employees, contractors, and other persons employed by the operator in the connection with providing the services, which person shall be located at provided services at the facility. Facility personnel includes facility manager, on-site operation staff, on-site back office, support staff, and on-site managers. This resource model is used to personnel class, people of various socio-economical standards who are affected by COVID-19, and uniquely identifies the person taking up the survey. The individual must be unbiased on giving their opinion, and it also defines the qualification test results and results of expiration of tests. Facilities. It includes building structures, process of or production of equipment or machinery that form a permanent part of new resource and that will be used in operations. These facilities are equipment such as value as the present or substantial commitment to construct. This equipment resource model is used to uniquely identifies the equipment or equipment classes. It defines a description of equipment and it defines the capability of the equipment and it defines the capability test results and results of expiration of the equipment such as safety inspections and it defines and track the maintenance of and requests and the budget. It includes items and the amount. For personnel, we had spent the dollars of 26 and equipments $16, supplies and $10, transportation $8, communication $6, accommodation $95, food $70. So total $231. These are our group members.
Where did you base this study?
Thank you.
Who made the budget? Because if you will be making the budget, why in dollars? You should have put it in your own currency unless you copied this study. Also, your dummy table, it's euro per month. If you will be interviewing Indian students, you look at rupees per month. Or if your money is in peso per month. So you're expecting 200 COVID patients from your UPHSD class? Do you
Yes,
think
doctor.
that's a realistic number? That of all the JFSM population or the UPHSD Indian population, as you put in your methodology, you could reach 200 participants? Theoretic
Yes.
question.
Yes, doctor.
What
Because
if you are not able to meet your sample size?
I don't think so, because it will be easy for us to manage 200 Indian students, because if we check in the graph also, like it's quite high numbers of Indian students in the usage. So it will be
Who,
easier for us.
who got COVID? Remember your inclusion criteria.
Yes, doctor.
Okay. So your questionnaire measures how long the symptoms and how severe the symptoms are.
Yes, doctor. It's just a screenshot of the questionnaire. So because it's quite long, so just put a screenshot of the questionnaire. So this is how the questionnaires will look like.
Okay. So you should have put in your paper, in your final paper, put all the questions, okay? Not just the first part.
Yes,
So
doctor.
even in your study, you ask a lot of questions. That's why I'm asking. Your dummy table showed more data than the questionnaire that you showed.
Yeah,
Okay.
because the
So
dummy
your
table is, yes, doctor.
yes, go ahead.
Because in the dummy table, that the graph that we have shown, that is just an interpretation, like when we get the results from our questionnaire. So this is how we are going to interpret it. So
Okay. So your expectation is how long would your post-COVID myalgia last?
expectations, like I didn't
Your
understand your question.
expected answer. Your hypothetical um results. What do you think? Anyone experience COVID
Yes, doctor. Just
among you?
anyone who
How long was the muscle fatigue in
uh
place?
in place, like for
For
months, like
months?
yeah, like months.
Okay.
How long?
Okay. My personal experience, I think it lasted for me around 2 to 3 months. Okay. After my COVID infection, whenever I will do a vaginal delivery or a cesarean section, whenever I pull down just pulling down the baby and delivering the baby, I was always out of breath for around 2 to 3 months. Okay. That's because that's the activity that I usually do and I could assess. Walking, of course, sometimes I get tired, but the vaginal delivery I could do without effort. But after COVID, I felt the fatigue. Okay. So, okay. Simple research. Good job. Okay. We'll have your next. Just fix it in your paper because you're writing it in dollars and euro per month. I know that you have based this on some other paper. You adjust your currency to your particular participants. Okay.
Okay, okay, doctor.
Next group.
Thank you.
This is Group 6 presenting our research proposal. Our general topic is drug safety and a specific topic is overuse of antibiotics. Next slide.
Could you make it
Introduction.
larger?
An antibiotic is a type.
Could you make it larger? Or ask someone with a laptop to share screen? Not from mobile?
Of antimicrobial substance. Good day, everyone.
Yes, because it's very small.
Good day, everyone. This is
Can someone else share? You send it to a group mate because you're sharing from mobile, so we could have a um larger visual. While they're fixing, could we have the next group? We'll go back to the other group. Okay.
Can you hear, doctor?
myself, Sakshi.
Okay, go ahead. There's no sound. The video has no sound. Can you fix? Can you fix the audio, please?
Hello, myself Sakshi Raman Ahare. Introduction. Our topic is effect of screen time on migraine patients. The aim of this study is to find out the correlation between patients suffering from migraine and their age and screen time. Then the general topic is to analyze population with migraine based on their age and screen time. Specific topic to find the relationship between screen time and migraine in young adults. Then the objectives of this study is to demonstrate how does different screen time usage affects the age group of people with migraine and how do they proceed to recover from the pain.
Research question: is there any specific period of time that you experience the migraine in And the second one is for how long does the migraine persist? And the third one is there any other aggravating factors that worsen the pain of migraine along with the longer screen time usage? And the last one is what do you do in order to get relief from the pain? Moving on to the research design, null and alternate hypothesis. In null hypothesis, there is no significant evidence that every person with more screen time will suffer from headache or migraine. And in alternate hypothesis, there is significant evidence that people with more screen time have higher chances to have headache or migraine than the people with lesser screen time usage than the others.
Sampling method. Our topic is did people with more screen time have affected more with migraine, headache? Based on our topic, the best sampling method is random sampling. Why do we select random sampling? As migraine can be affected for literally anyone all along the world. So to conduct our research in an effective way, we choose a small number from the total population. A sample is an unbiased manner by random sampling. In random sampling, each sample has an equal probability being chosen. A sample chosen randomly is meant to be an unbiased representation of a total population. It is important because it makes it easier to make generalizations. Perhaps the most common approach is to use the simple random sampling technique. To do so, we choose our participants based on the list of random numbers. Next is a target population. In our research, people who are with migraine headache without considering their screen usage time. Sampling frame. Our sampling frame is the people in India who were suffering from migraine headache. The sampling unit of our research is people with migraine or headache who uses electronic gadgets for a long period of time. Next, the P, it means population. 60 people who uses electronic gadgets a lot and suffer from migraine. I, intervention, migraine patients with high screen time, more than 5 hours. C, comparison, migraine patients with lower screen time, less than 5 hours. O, outcome, prevention of migraine. M, methodology, data collection and surveys.
Methodology. Study design. For our study, we wanted to analyze the effect of risk factors without trying to change who is or is not exposed to it at specific point in time. Moreover, we wanted to include various variables. Considering all these factors, we decided to go for an observational study. Furthermore, as our research design is quantitative, we can easily interpret results by conducting survey using questionnaire among our selected subjects of research. Study population. Our study aims to determine the impact of screen time as an migraine patients. The sample population for the study is 60 patients suffering from migraines. The population includes patients of all age groups. This allows us to also access the variable factors of age into consideration. Operational definition. Variable. Screen time continues or with breaks. Proper light during screen time. Rest between screen time. Distance between device and the patient. Use of earphones in ear or headphones. Parameters. More than or equal to 5 hours of screen time for high screen time or less than 5 hours of screen time.
Data processing and analysis. Data extracted from the respondents' characteristics, translating the answers on the questionnaire into the form that can be manipulated to produce statistics. A table was made for analysis depending on the nature of research question. The answers were provided in a 3-point Likert scale ranging from S to rarely. Especially 1 is yes, 2 refers to no, and 3 refers to rarely. Graphs and charts are visually appealing ways to share data. Descriptive statistics were calculated according to the nature of measure. Our research uses statistical method to gain understanding about the population. Next is interpretation. We can interpret through data collected and reviewing related literature that migraine episode can really impact your personal and professional life. Our research have found that increased screen time is associated with migraines with all ages, especially young adults indicating sedentary lifestyle, which can lead to weight gain, cardiovascular problems, and insulin problems. A higher screen time with low amounts of sleep has been observed to worsen the migraine problems. Moreover, comparing young adults and older individuals with almost same screen time, and older individuals were affected more as compared to young adults. Hence, our alternate hypothesis is there is significant evidence that people with more screen time have higher chances to have headache or migraine than the people with lesser screen time usage than the others is correct. Thank you.
Hello everyone, it's me Sabah Ahmed. Now I'm going to discuss about review of related literature. Research has shown that longer hours of screen time are negatively associated with children's healthy development. Whereas most research has focused on school-age children, less is known about this association in early childhood. The screen, whether it is computer, mobile, tablet or television, it is a symbol of our modern age. For our children, the digital natives who have grown up surrounded by digital information and entertainment on screens is a major part of contemporary life. The objective is to investigate whether excessive screen time exposure is associated with non-migraine headache and migraine in younger adults. Digital media and screens in their various forms are ubiquitous to modern society, not only in the lives of adults, but of children as well. Excessive screen time has been associated with obesity, sleep disturbance, and has negatively impacted cognitive development, and in some may cause behavioral problems. Screen time has been linked to reports of headaches, not only in adults but in children as well. Next slide, please. In the past 2 decades, screen time, like watching television, playing virtual games, has almost doubled young amongst children. Screens have a ubiquitous presence in children's day-to-day lives, are easy to access, and serve as a frequent platform for activity and entertainment. While screen use can be beneficial for children to some extent, like participation in educational programs, prolonged screen time use in childhood has been linked to negative developmental health outcomes including obesity, behavior problems, emotion regulation problems, speech delays, lower executive functioning, and academic problems. It has further been suggested that time spent in screen-based activities displays free and active play in childhood to some extent, interferes with the social interactions like with family and peers, and impacts sleep duration and quality. Some research suggests that screen time may be particularly concerning for children for low-income families. As more children are being given a mobile phone earlier, polls show 1 in 4 children under the age of 6 has access to a smartphone in the UK. It is essential that all children and young people should be aware of the effect mobile phone use can have on their sleep and the devastating impact that poor sleep can have on their health and well-being, particularly when it comes to their mental health. Next slide, please. In response to the public health concerns resulting from increase in screen time, Canadian and international research non-governmental organizations like participation and policymakers developed the 24-hour movement guidelines for early years in 2017 to encourage and promote optimal health behaviors in early childhood. The guidelines recommended that children under the age of 5 limit screen time to 1 hour per day. Further, the guidelines recommend that children under the age of 5 be physically active for at least 180 minutes per day and get at least 10 hours of sleep in a 24-hour period. Thank you.
Data collection. We collect the data using a Google Forms and questions are related to our topic and which contains open-ended questions. Like for example, do you have a headaches usually, or do you see earphones and headphones a lot? The questions was disseminated through WhatsApp, email, and other social media platform. 60 members will be our participants in given their responses. 60 persons who possess smartphones which are without social media accounts will be participating in this study, which is very common in modern society. We ask people if all age groups and genders to give responses to make statistical data. Graphic information of a respondent: name, gender, age, education, year level. And the next one, and questionnaires. The questionnaires is yes and no and rarely. First one is how frequently do you have headaches? Do you have headaches usually? Do you have headaches usually? Come when? How long do you headaches usually last? Did you get hit on your head during childhood? And how many hours do you sleep on average on weekdays? And how many hours a day do you spend on screen? And how many hours a day do you spend on screen? How do you been using your phone recently more than previous year? Do you use earphones, headphones a lot? And what if the time difference between using your phone and sleep? And do you consider yourself as an anxious, um, stressed person? And is your sleep schedule consistent?
Did you make the questionnaire? Or did you base it from another study?
No, doctor, we made our questionnaire. It wasn't very extensive, but it was fulfilling for our study.
Okay, so if you're gonna make your questionnaire, make sure theoretically that you will do a pre-test um before you collect your data, so that you will know the validity of your questions. I saw that there are vague words that you include. You may confuse your respondent with the usually. How often is usual? So be direct. How many times do you have a headache? How long does your headache last? You can do away with the word usually in constructing your questionnaire, your questions for your survey. All right.
Sure, doctor.
And then include your dummy table in your protocol. You could edit your questions in your final paper. You could improve your questions and then include your dummy table, expected results from your survey. Okay, so it's looking at screen time. So you're looking at increased number of migraine for every screen time done, right?
Yes,
So
doctor.
again, it's simple. And maybe you could do some recommendations. For example, you could add in the question, what do you do whenever you have headache, etc.? So you either stop the screen time, drink medicine, etc., so that you know the initial response of your respondents. All right? Okay, can you
Absolutely,
go
yes,
back to
doctor.
yes? Can you go back to the previous group who had a technical difficulty?
Yes, doctor.
All right. Okay. You're next. Okay, that's better. Okay, go ahead.
Actually, again, no audio. Sriram.
No audio. I'll share it with. I'll share.
Presenting a research proposal. A general topic is drug safety and a specific topic is overuse of antibiotics. Next slide. Introduction. An antibiotic is a type of antimicrobial substance active against bacteria. It is the most important type of antibacterial agent for fighting bacterial infection, and antibiotic medicines are widely used in the treatment and the prevention of such diseases. Antibiotics are powerful medicine that fight certain infection and can save lives when used properly. They either stop bacteria from reproducing or destroy them. Before bacteria can multiply and cause symptoms, the immune system can physically kill them. White blood cells attacks harmful bacteria, and even if symptoms do occur, the immune system can usually cope and fight off the infection. Sometimes, however, the number of harmful bacteria is excessive and the immune system cannot fight them all. Antibiotics are used in this scenario. The first antibiotic was penicillin. Penicillin-based antibiotics such as ampicillin, amoxicillin, and penicillin G are still available to treat a variety of infections and have been around for a long time.
Statement of problem. Among middle ages, which is the 45 to 70 age, people, what is the effect of overuse of antibiotic and benefits of controlled use in relieving against specific bacterial infection to avoid the resistant. Next slide, please. Objective. First one is the general objective. Drug safety is the main aspect of medical therapy that can play a major role in the deciding which drug should be given to the patient. And also considering the concept of benefit risk balance, we found that drugs with high risk profile should be avoided unless needed. And next one is a specific objective, and first one is the primary aim is to examine the level of knowledge of antibiotic and the antibiotic resistance in the middle-aged population, that is 45 to 70 age living in India. Secondary aim is to assess which degree beliefs, attitudes, and socio-demographic factors are associated with this knowledge. According to the World Health Organization, which is WHO, antibiotic resistance is one of the biggest threat to the global health, food security, and development today. Increased use of antibiotic worldwide, both in human medicine and in agriculture, has led to increased occurrence of resistant bacteria.
Hypothesis. Alternative hypothesis. Overuse of antibiotic among middle-aged group of people are at increased risk of antibiotic resistance due to lack of knowledge about the proper use of antibiotics. Null hypothesis. Overuse of antibiotic among middle-aged group of people may not be at increased risk of antibiotic resistance due to lack of knowledge about the proper use of antibiotics. Next slide, please. Significance of study. This research aims to examine the level of knowledge of antibiotics and antibiotic resistance in the middle-aged population, that is 45 to 70 age living in India. Parents. The study will be significant to the parents as they will be able to gain a little bit of knowledge about the antibiotic resistance. Students. The study will be significant to the students as they will be able to learn about the antibiotic resistance and how it works. Teachers. The study will be significantly help teachers to educate students more about antibiotic and its resistance.
Literature Review Journal 1, a rapid review of the overuse of antibiotics during the COVID-19 pandemic lessons learned, and recommendations for the future. During the ongoing coronavirus disease 2019 COVID-19 pandemic caused by the severe acute respiratory syndrome, coronavirus 2, SARS-CoV-2, there have so far been more than 150 million confirmed cases and over 3 million deaths worldwide. This paper reports the results of a rapid review on the reported rates of secondary bacterial infections and antibiotic use during the COVID-19 pandemic. This will likely lead to patients receiving inappropriate antibiotic treatment for both the remainder of the COVID-19 pandemic and in future pandemics, and will ultimately result in further emergence of antimicrobial resistance. Next. Journal 2. Misuse of antibiotic. A systemic review of Saudi published studies. During the past 2 decades, the prevalence of multi-drug resistant bacterial infections had increased significantly in children. This problem was observed in community onset and healthcare associated infections. A cross-sectional survey was conducted in pediatrics emergency care at National Guard Hospital in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. This identified the prevalence of non-prescribed antibiotic among the Saudi children. The study rated 43.6% of participants that had given antibiotics without prescription to their child. Journal 3. A systematic review of the public's knowledge and beliefs about antibiotic resistance. Antibiotic resistance is a complex problem that transcends international boundaries. It is predicted to kill 10 million people globally each year and cause the global economy of $100 trillion by 2050. We identified 54 studies which involved a total of 55,225 participants. Supplementary data show the study characteristics. They were mainly surveys, 74%, or 54% had high and 34% had moderate response rates. Methodology. Research design. This study is an observational study to estimate the risk or rate of an outcome among the individual who overuse the antibiotics and who do not use. Research participants. The participants for this study are of particular age group, that is among middle age from 45 to 70 age. A total of 100 response will be collected for the easy convenience of data processing. Data collection method. The data collection method that will be used in this research is a self-administered questionnaire. The survey will be conducted by sending the Google form through social media platforms like WhatsApp, Instagram. Operational definition. Antibiotic resistance. Antibiotic resistance occurs when the bacteria change and can fight off the antibiotic medication that typically kill them. Next slide. This is the way we conducted the survey. Dummy table. Dummy tables are basically an outline of a table which will be used to present the result. Criteria. Gender, male and the female. Age from 40 to 50, 50 to 60, and 50 to 70. Occupation, working and retired. Number of responses as a no and number of responses as a yes.
Here are some hypothetical interpretation. First, we expect more people to know about effect of overuse of antibiotics. We expect male to know more about overuse of antibiotics than the female. We expect majority of the people will be in the age group of 60 to 70 years. Coming to conclusion, getting proper education on the side effects of overuse of antibiotic is a must. Communicating to the doctor regarding doses of antibiotics should be done before taking any antibiotics. Thank you.
Okay, so your dummy tables are correct. My comment, your review of related literature can be improved. Your
Okay.
RRL should not be journal 1, then journal 2, journal 3. So you get all your sources and you write it into one cohesive section showing the studies, etc. No need to enumerate journal 1, journal 2, journal 3. That's not how it's done. Review on how to do your RRL and you can improve your paper. Okay?
Okay, doctor.
All right. But your
Thank you.
dummy tables are correct. Your antibiotics, rationale, of course, it's a concern that it's overuse, etc. Okay, next group, please.
Hello everyone, my name is Devransh Shen and I am the group leader of Group 7. Today I'll be presenting our final research paper. The title of the research paper is, What is the demographic characteristics as in gender of people who are at risk of severe acute respiratory syndrome, coronavirus 2 or SARS-CoV-2? The introduction. Large virus family known as the coronavirus is responsible for a variety of illness from common cold to severe forms like MERS and SARS. The signs and symptoms of COVID-19 can vary, but they frequently include fever, cough, headache, exhaustion, trouble breathing, loss of smell, and loss of taste. 1 to 14 days after the virus exposure, symptoms may appear. At least 1/3 of infected individuals don't experience any symptoms at all. The severe symptoms are more likely to appear in older people, and organ damage is also noted, and some people experience a variety of effects, long-term effects, for months after recovery. Men are expected to experience greater mortality and severity than women. Research question or the research problem. So does gender of an individual determine the severity of the COVID infection? Or is there increased risk of COVID infection based on gender? The PICOM, P being population, is the COVID effective adults. I, the prognostic factor, are the demographic variables, which we specify as gender here on our paper. See, the comparison group are the two genders, male and female. Male are more likely than women to experience the severity and mortality of COVID-19, while women may be more likely to experience COVID-19 reinfections and long-term COVID development. O as an outcome, where adults with higher age morbidities to take appropriate measure even after contracting and getting cured of coronavirus. M methodology is online survey collection. Objectives of the research paper, the general objective being COVID-19 and specific objective being gender as demographic variable affecting COVID-19 reinfections. The hypothesis. So our hypothesis states that there is a significant difference between people who are at risk of severe acute respiratory syndrome, the coronavirus 2, SARS-CoV-2, and demographic profile considering the gender. The null hypothesis states that there is no significant difference between people who are at risk of severe acute respiratory syndrome, coronavirus 2, SARS-CoV-2, and demographic profile considering the gender. Significance of the study. As you all know, that in the past years, COVID-19 has played a very important role in medical, financial, and social aspects of everyone's life. A number of researchers and testings are being done all around the world to get a better understanding of this illness. This demographic-based study helps us to improve understanding of the effects of COVID-19 on males and females separately, and this will further help in treatment and care of the patient. Literature review. So we did a total of 6 literature reviews, and I have attached the links to each in the following slides. Article 1, the severity and mortality of COVID-19 is higher in males than in women, whereas women might be at an increased risk of COVID-19 reinfections and development of Article 2, meta-analysis on 59 studies comprising 36.4 patients showed that male and patients aged above 70 have a high risk for COVID-19 infections, severe disease, ICU admission, and death. Article 3, the age, male gender, BMI, and severity of the first episode do not seem to be linked with repeated positivity. Article 4, the outcome revealed that the diet diversity of female household was affected more due to the COVID-19 compared to male households. The decline in the daily nutrients intake during the COVID-19 was also greater for female-headed households than male-headed households. Article 5, the gender difference in health risks and implications are likely to be expanded during the COVID-19 pandemic. Efforts to foster equity in health, social, and economic system during and in the aftermath of COVID-19 may mitigate the inequitable risk posed by pandemic and other times of healthcare distress. Article 6, there are 4 identified factors that put one at high risk for infections and mortality, creating a disparity: age, comorbidity, race or ethnicity, and gender. Methods: survey and gender who are linked to identify those adults testing positive or have been positive. We will be computing using SPSS for demographic variable of gender. Dummy table. This is a sample dummy table that we will be extracting from our SPSS computation. Hypothetical interpretation of the results. So older age and a higher number of comorbidities were associated with higher severity and mortality in patients with both COVID-19 and SARS. Age was comparable between men and women in all data sets. In a case series, however, men's case tend to be more serious than women. In public data set, the number of men who died from COVID-19 is 2.4 times than that of women. In SARS patients, the gender role in mortality was also observed. The percentage of males were higher in the diseased group than in survived group. There's growing evidence that androgen-enabled expression of ACE2 inhibitors and the serine protease TMPR SS2, two permissive element engaging the SARS-CoV-2 spike protein per infection, may contribute to severe COVID-19 infections in men. These are the details of the group members that took part in the research.
Okay, thank you. So again, summarize your study. What's your study about? Summarize your study in one sentence.
Doctor, what we are looking for are the rate of reinfections, the demographic variable, that is the gender. We are looking at the frequency of reinfections in the two genders.
For
COVID reinfections.
For COVID.
Rate of COVID reinfections.
So what's your expectation? Would there be a gender predilection?
Yes, doctor, there would be.
And what are the reasons?
Doctor, talking about the reasons, there were a few papers which mentioned that due to presence of certain genes in males, specifically the TMPR SS2 genes, so these serine proteases I mean, these receptors, gene receptors, were evident to cause increased reaction to the spike proteins that the COVID-19 had. So men were more expected to have higher chances
have
of
an
COVID
infection.
infection,
Okay.
while
All right.
women were, yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Next group, please.
Good morning, doctor. This is group 9.
Most women who breastfeed Walford wellness dietitian. Most women who breastfeed experience hormonal changes during lactation that delay their menstrual periods. This reduces a woman's lifetime exposure to hormones like estrogen, which can promote breast cancer cell growth. In addition, during pregnancy and breastfeeding, you shed breast tissue. This shedding can help remove cells with potential DNA damage, thus helping to reduce your chances of developing breast cancer. Walford says breastfeeding also can help lower your ovarian cancer risk by preventing ovulation. And the less you ovulate, the less exposure to estrogen and abnormal cells that could become cancer. Here's what you need to know about breastfeeding and tips for support. Several hypotheses have been presented to explain the relationship between breastfeeding and breast cancer risk. One of the hypotheses regarding this subject suggested that estrogen and progesterone, by increasing the mitotic activity in breast cells, can have a role in the increased risk of breast cancer. Therefore, it is assumed that lactation amenorrhea can impact the reduction of breast cancer by reducing hormone levels. For this reason, the history and duration of breastfeeding were considered as a possible protective factor. Title of research: Comparing the risk factors between breastfeeding women and non-breastfeeding women with breast cancer related. Duration 4 months.
The title of the research is Comparing the Risk Factor Between the Breastfeeding Woman and Non-Breastfeeding Women with Breast Cancer Related, and its duration is 4 months.
Your breast cancer risk. Is there a link between breast cancer and breastfeeding? Objectives of our research are research statement, link between the breastfeeding women and non-breastfeeding women with relating it to breast cancer. Our general objective is to know if breastfeeding for 6 months could reduce the risk of breast cancer in childbearing women compared to the non-breastfeeding women. Our specific objective is to find the relation between breastfeeding and parity in controlling breast cancer, to assess the link between the breastfeeding with the breast cancer, and to know the link between the breastfeeding women and non-breastfeeding women with relation to breast cancer.
Hello doctor, my name is Kumar Gajendar and my topic is significance of the study. The aim of This protocol is to guide clinicians in the delivery of optimal care of breastfeeding women as it relates to breast cancer from screening to diagnosis, treatment, and survivorship. This research will suggest the confirmation between the does breastfeeding reduce breast cancer risk among Paris women. This study will show the significant relationship between the number of breastfed children and breast cancer. Thank
Here
you.
is the literature review on parity and breastfeeding are preventive measures against breast cancer in Iranian women. Breast cancer is the most prevalent cancer in Iranian women and the fifth most common cause of cancer-related death in Iran. Among predicting factors and preventive measures of breast cancer, parity and breastfeeding are the controversial issues. The objective is, so they have conducted research to find the relation between breastfeeding and parity in controlling breast cancer.
And my topic is literature review to breastfeeding and breast cancer risk reduction and implication for black mothers. September 2017. Breastfeeding has become a well-documented and protective factor for breast cancer. Black women not only have a lower rate of breastfeeding compared with white women, but they are also disproportionately affected by a triple negative breast cancer and aggressive subtype. From a public health perspective, the evidence linking breastfeeding and breastfeeding to the cancer risk adds to the importance of ensuring all women have a necessary supports in a place to meet their breastfeeding goals. More work is needed to improve the contextual factor that influence breastfeeding rates at the population level. The effort to do so should give a special consideration to the needs of Black women to address breastfeeding disparities among this group and potential contribution to reduce the breast cancer incident. Interventions such as peer counseling, hospital policies changes, breastfeeding, special clinic appointments, group pre-natural education, and enchanted breastfeeding programs have been shown to be effective in communicate of colors. And a comprehensive approach is needed to integrate interventions across a multiple level, national, state, and local, and a setting to help women to research their breastfeeding goals by reducing breastfeeding disparities and incident of
Review 3. Risk of not breastfeeding for mothers and infants. Research suggests that breastfeeding is a key modifiable risk factor for disease for both mothers and infants. Patient perception of
Methods. Research design, systematic review, and meta-analysis. Methodology, descriptive study. We want to use this method because a systematic review attempts to gather all available empirical research by using clearly defined systematic method to obtain answer to a specific question. A meta-analysis is a statistical process of analyzing and combining results from several similar studies.
Hello, doctor. Today we're going to discuss about the subjects in our research. So first one is the source. We are getting source everything from the hospital data, which is from the oncology center where my brother used to work. So he's helping with all the data and statistics. And the next one is the data collection methods, and then the other one is the operational definition. And also here I mentioned how it's related with the breastfeeding along with the breast cancer relation regarding the risk factors. The next is the data analysis methods, which is usually inferential methods. So first one here, the picture shows how we produce data using population, and then the data analysis, which gives a probability, and final one is the inference. So next, the dummy tables is nothing but a skeleton where skeletal tables or charts usually we use in the research program. So here are some examples for our dummy tables related to our topic. And then the next one is hypothetical interpretation of the data, which means we are assuming this may be the result of a particular type of research. So here it's presented all over. So the interpretation is nothing but according to our research is the longer women breastfeed, the more they are protected against the breast cancer. The lack of their duration of breastfeeding, typically of women in developed countries, make a major contribution incidence of breast cancer in these particular type of countries. And then these are usually conclusion of our research. Which we gonna short it out, which is nothing but duration of breastfeeding reduce the risk of breast cancer when compared via meta-analysis to the case that they do not breastfeed. So it's all about the relation between the breast cancer and the breastfeeding, which is not until completely proven. I don't say it's already nothing yet started regarding this feature, but it is not something until completely proven. So we would like to conclude from this particular type of research in our way. So this is the timetable that we had a time schedule in for from which time to which time we have used we have collected the data and everything. And then these are budgets, no financial support and sponsorship, data availability. So I already mentioned the data availability is already on upon request, and then no conflicts of interest that are found in our particular types. On these are our references that we used for our complete research program. And these also some citations and traditions that we already gather are pictures and the other contents for our particular type of research.
Okay, thank you. Again, your RRL, you could improve. So you will not make it journal 1, journal 2, journal 3. Make it into one cohesive section. Okay?
Yeah, okay, doctor. Thank you so
Next
much.
group. Next group, please. Next group. Next group, please. Who's next?
We are from Group 30 and our research topic is polycystic ovarian syndrome and yoga. Research question. Does practicing yoga on a regular basis leads to the regulation of ovulation and menstrual cycle in women suffering from polycystic ovarian syndrome? Research objective. To determine and establish if there is any relationship between practicing yoga according to the phase of reproductive cycle and regulation of reproductive cycle. To check if ovulation can be regulated externally by practicing yoga on daily basis. Hypothesis. Practicing yoga on a timely basis helps in regulation of menstrual cycle and hormone balancing amongst patients with PCOD. Significance of study. Our study is to observe the conditions of women with PCOS, polycystic ovarian disease, a common endocrine condition which is rapidly gaining epidemic proportion. Since PCOS is a hormonal disorder, it comes with the risk factors of one of them is genetics. The significance of this study is to help and understand the people about the syndrome. Then literature review. Article 1. The effect of 6-week yoga exercise on the quality of life in infertile women with polycystic ovary syndrome. Infertility is one of the main concerns of human societies, and PCOS is considered as the most common reason of the woman's infertility due to ovulation disorders. Infertility has been considered as the main cause of psychopathy disorders and reduced quality in the life in PCOS patients. Exercise is a non-pharmaceutical method in the treatment of PCOS. That yoga is a recommended exercise for this disease. This study was performed with the aim to determine the effect of 6 weeks yoga on the quality of life in infertile women with PCOS. Yoga as a meditation exercise for 6 weeks can improve the score of quality of the life in women with PCOS undergoing infertility treatment. Therefore, this exercise as an effective and low-cost method can be used for improvement of life quality in these women. Article 2. Effect of yoga program on the quality of life in adolescent polycystic ovarian syndrome, a randomized control trial. Polycystic ovarian syndrome is a common female endocrine disorder challenging feminine identity, which is likely to impact their quality of life. The aim of this study was to evaluate the effect of yoga on the PCOS specific quality of life in adolescent girls with PCOS. Yoga program for 12 weeks is significantly better than physical exercise in improving PCOS quality of life in adolescent girls with PCOS. Article 3. Management of PCOD, Ayurveda and Integrated Medical Science. PCOD is one of the conditions affecting in the unique capacity of women. The disorder is probably the most common hormonal abnormality in the woman of reproductive age and certainly a leading cause of infertility. In Ayurvedic classics, there is no direct mentioning of this disease. Rather, symptoms are found under various disease conditions at various references. Combination of both tablet, Rajapravantini Vati and tablet Mensol along with the Vistana therapy proved to be effective in regularizing menstruation, achieving considerable reduction in body weight, substantial growth of follicles, and thus ovulation, and through these achievements will prevent long-term consequences of PCOD. The final outcome of the study is very positive. No doubt the above treatment protocol may be helpful for the management of the PCOD in the future definitely. Article 4. Management of PCOS, a psychosomatic disorder by yoga practice. Polycystic ovarian syndrome, an emerging lifestyle disorder involving multiple systems affecting 5 to 10% of the women exhibiting the full-blown syndrome of hyperandrogenism, chronic anovulation, and polycystic ovaries. Yoga is a complete prescription for the health, body, and mind, which can destroy the root cause of PCOS, obesity, and stress. Moreover, yoga is a great stress buster. Stress in human life can even lead to the unwanted weight gain. Yoga is a holistic science and art of living. This is because routines, yoga asanas, pranayamas, breathing techniques, and kriyas, cleansing exercise prescribed in the yoga help to tone up the whole system. Daily yoga for 30 minutes with 4 asanas, pranayama, meditation, and shavasana help in the weight reduction and stress management, which ultimately stabilize the normal function of hypothalamo pituitary ovarian axis And to PCOS, it is time to acknowledging the role of yoga as a safe and effective treatment of PCOS. Article 5. Efficacy of yoga therapy and body mass index and testosterone among adult women with polycystic ovarian syndrome. Women, in addition to being the backbone of family, also started stepping out of the house and shine professionally as well in the 21st century. The stress and strain they go through the day-to-day activity is posing a threat on the overall physical as well as mental vitality and vigor of women. Polycystic ovary syndrome in the woman of reproductive age, characterized by oligoovulation, hypoergonism, and polycystic ovarian morphology, is a heterogeneous and complicated disorder. Yoga therapy works at level as a more subtle and deeper than physical body, ensuring holistic treatment for polycystic ovarian syndrome. Surya Namaskar and the asana helps to open up the pelvic area and promotes the blood flow to the uterus and massages the shooting inflammation. Enhancing the function, it also simulates the secretions of the entire endocrine system. Regular practice also aids in the shaping the excess fat in the body. It concluded that major variation in the body mass index were found and testosterone hormone levels decreased among the experimental group compared to the control group due to the yoga therapy among the adult women with the polycystic ovarian syndrome. Hence, yoga therapy is good for adult women suffering from the PCOS.
Methods. Research design. In this research, a true experimental research design was adopted, and the test group received interventions with no intervention provided for the experimental group. Study population. Girls of Indian ethnicity who are in menstruating phase. Next slide. Study procedure. After obtaining the code of ethics and necessary permission to start sampling, the researcher referred to the research environment with a letter of introduction. After identification of the eligible patients, they were provided with the sufficient information about the objectives of the research, and the study procedure and informed written consent was obtained for the volunteer participants. The research would call the participants 5 times a week, so as to follow upon application of the yoga exercise. According to the research protocol, the participants in control group only received routine care which was provided by the hospital during this period, and the timing of the two group was planned in such a way that there was no interference between them. Instruments and data collection. The data was collected through a demographic information questionnaires and also information about the menstrual cycle using a checklist. And the checklist contains following. Next slide. Name of the patient, age of the patient, and height. Affect infertility, weight of the patient, and menstrual cycle, and hormonal medications. Metformin usage, and hair distribution, and skin distribution, pelvic pain, and additional supplements. And whether the patient practicing daily yoga or like activities. Thank you.
Operational definition. An operational definition is how we decide to measure the variables in our study. So in this study, there is no special operational definitions are to be accounted in this study. Next is data analysis. Data analysis summarizes collected data. It involves the interpretation of data gathered through the use of analytical and logical reasoning to determine patterns, relationships, or trends. So in a year, the data will be analyzed using SPSS software version 22. In addition, any level of lower than 0.05 was considered significant for all the analysis. Statistical tests such as ANCOA, independent t-test, chi-square, and Fisher's exact test can also be conducted. Next slide. So this is the dummy table, outline how the results of the trial will be reported. This is our result of our questionnaire. Next slide. Hypothetical interpretation of results. We expect our result to show a positive correlation between the patients practicing yoga and their regulation of menstrual cycle. Our initial survey would reveal most of the patients being prescribed with oral contraceptive pills for regulating their periods and metformin for assistance in weight loss. The secondary aim of the study will will be to help them come off those medications and regulate their menstrual cycle naturally. Thank you. Good morning. So next we'll be discussing about timetable and schedule. The survey will be taken online, so no scheduling will be required. We will provide virtual counseling and orientation for the participants who will be practicing yoga during their menstrual cycle that we aim to regulate without medications. Next is personnel and facilities. Students will be carrying out the study, and the personnel required is one supervisor or the guide, 15 students, and the facilities are Zoom account and laptops. Budget. The study requires of minimal spending. We are aiming for zero financial requirements, hence a budget is not set.
Thank you, doctor, for listening to our presentation.
Okay, thank you. So, polycystic and yoga. So, what's the benefit of yoga according to your study? It releases what? How does it relate to your polycystic?
We have in our literature review, we have found out that people who practice yoga on a daily basis seem to have a better regulation of their hypothalamic pituitary and ovarian axis, which will help them regulate their symptoms. And girls who do vigorous exercises or do gymming and so that type of exercises will have higher levels of testosterone, while yoga will balance those levels out with estrogen. And so yoga believes that the body's water, Ayurveda believes that the body's water levels are affected due to the moon phases. And if we regulate the yoga exercises according to the phase of the cycle, it will affect the hormone levels, and it will regulate the hormonal cycle externally without any medication.
Okay. Okay, so it could be I'm sure in Ayurveda it's commonly done, but in Western, it's yoga is not in the mainstream, so it may be an alternative way to treat PCOS. Okay, next group, please.
Hello, doctor. Today we are here to present Group 12. The title of our research is Active or Latent Tuberculosis Increases Susceptibility to COVID-19 and Disease Severity. Our topics are general topic COVID-19, specific topic tuberculosis. Introduction. Coronavirus are a large family of viruses that are known to cause illness ranging from common cold to more severe diseases such as Middle East respiratory syndrome and severe acute respiratory syndrome. Symptoms of COVID-19 are variable but often include fever, cough, headache, fatigue, breathing difficulties, loss of smell, and loss of taste. Symptoms may begin 1 to 14 days after exposure to the virus. At least a third of people who are infected do not develop noticeable symptoms. Older people are at a higher risk of developing severe symptoms. Some people continue to experience a range of effects for months after recovery, and damaged organs have been observed. Multi-layer studies are underway to further investigate the long-term effects of this disease. One long-term effect that we are keen to learn about is tuberculosis. Tuberculosis is a potential serious infectious disease that mainly affects the lungs. The bacteria that causes tuberculosis spread from person to person through tiny droplets released via air through cough and sneezes. Typical syndromes of active TB are chronic cough with blood containing mucus, fever, night sweats, and weight loss. It was historically referred to as an consumption due to weight loss associated with the disease. Infection of other organs can cause a wide range of symptoms. Tuberculosis is an evil that us mankind have been fighting since a very long time. Our basic understanding tells us that COVID-19 and tuberculosis both play an active role in deteriorating our pulmonary health. That brings us to our research. Can tuberculosis make a patient more vulnerable to a COVID-19 infection? Or can tuberculosis be one of the adversities of severe post-COVID-19 infection? Through this research, we aim to find answers to these questions. PICOM. P. Population. People in India diagnosed with tuberculosis after recovering from COVID-19. I. Intervention. Post-COVID medications and regular checkups. C. Comparison. Post-COVID patients with TB and post-COVID patients with no severe side effect. O. Outcome. Taking extra precautions for TB if a patient has a COVID history. Spreading more awareness among people and health facilities. M. Methodology. Comparative and informative research.
Significance of the study. As we all know that in past year, COVID-19 has played a very important role in medical, financial and social aspects of everyone's life. A number of research and testings are being done all around the world to get a better understanding of this illness. Tuberculosis is an evil that as mankind have been fighting since very long. Our basic understanding tells us that COVID-19 and tuberculosis both play an active role in worsening our pulmonary health. That brings us to research. Can tuberculosis make a patient more vulnerable to COVID-19 infection? The study with fruitful results will help us understand better about the relation between these two pulmonary infections. It will open a new floodgate of questions and findings, making it easy for us to understand the dynamic between them. This research will benefit people who have been suffering from tuberculosis and also people who are at a risk due to severe post-COVID-19 infection. This study will also help medical professionals in dealing with these infections. It will also open a new points of view in pharmacological department. It will allow government and medical management to formulate new policies on a better way to tackle these infections. Research questions. Are patients with COVID history more susceptible to tuberculosis? Can tuberculosis make a patient more vulnerable to a COVID-19 infection? Can tuberculosis be one of the adversity of severe post-COVID-19 infections? Objectives. Research objectives. To investigate the probability of patient getting infected by tuberculosis after recovering from a severe case of COVID-19. To explore the available evidence on the interaction between COVID-19 and tuberculosis. To explore the various causes of tuberculosis which may be connected to post-COVID symptoms. To establish a connection between TB and COVID-19. General objectives. To establish whether the patient with a COVID-19 history are more prone to getting diagnosed with tuberculosis. Specific objectives. To investigate patients who are diagnosed with tuberculosis who may or may not have a history of COVID-19. To investigate patients with mild to severe post-COVID symptoms. To determine whether the infections of COVID-19 does a permanent damage to the lungs among the other organs. To examine if tuberculosis can be one of the consequences of this permanent damage done to the lungs. Formulate plans for research on tuberculosis. To compare patient diagnosed with TB with patient having mild symptoms, both of them having a history of COVID. To create more awareness among people, patients, and healthcare facilities about these consequences of COVID-19. Literature review. Article 1. Tuberculosis may play a role in the development of severe COVID-19 and may potentially result in mortality. This study aims to provide insight on TB, which is one of the COVID-19 side effects. Article 2. The combination of COVID-19 and Mycobacterium tuberculosis has great potential for morbidity and mortality. A review article addressed concurrent tuberculosis and COVID-19. This discussed priority in clinical care, public health, and research about the combination of COVID-19 and tuberculosis, which has great potential for morbidity and mortality. Mycobacterium tuberculosis and SARS-CoV-19 infections can be controlled by the same strategies as those used to control Mycobacterium tuberculosis. According to researchers at the University of Bristol in UK, patients with the respiratory symptoms can be tested for both pathogens depending on clinical presentation. Article 3. This article suggests a dual risk posted by co-infection worsening COVID-19 severity and favoring TB disease progression. This research shares a lot of information by pointing out difference and similarity of COVID-19 and TB. Article 4. This study aims to systematically analyze the current evidence of the impact. The study aims to examine whether people with pre-existing co-infections such as tuberculosis, HIV, viral hepatitis, dengue experience any greater risk for COVID-19 complications than the population without it. The majority of the include studies or observational. Article 5. They have summarized the evidence identifying broad mechanism by which COVID-19 may modify TB burden and migration network. There have been substantial disruption to TB health service, and an increase in vulnerability to TB. This article aimed to establish a strong connection between the drug and tuberculosis. It aided us in gathering all the evidence that link a TB infections to COVID crisis. Our focus is to prove the same. Article 6. This is an article published by WHO. This article mainly talk about tuberculosis and COVID. It mainly emphasizes on the importance of the maintaining the TB service intact during the pandemic because of the severity, sensitivity of TB infection.
Research design. The aim is to determine if COVID-19 infection can be cause of the tuberculosis in patients later on. Hypothesis: COVID-19 plays an active role in causing the tuberculosis in patients as it causes damage to the lungs, among other organs. Null hypothesis: COVID-19 does not play any role in causing tuberculosis in patients. And the research design that we are going to adopt is the descriptive type. Our research design aims to collect information and use it to form well-organized research, which will thoroughly explain our course of action. The two methods are used in the framework. The quantitative research is about explaining the phenomena through the statistical analysis of quantitative data sets, and the descriptive research includes the observational method, case study method, and the survey method. The data collected is qualitative and quantitative. It gives a holistic understanding of its research topic. The information is varied, diverse, and thorough. The aim of using the closed-ended question is to draw concrete conclusions about the respondents. We also conduct comparisons to understand how different groups respond to a specific product or service. Due to the non-invasive research method and the use of quantitative observation and some aspects of qualitative observation, we intend to observe each variable and conduct an in-depth analysis. Our questionnaire is a collection of well-thought, respondent-friendly, and direct questions. Our respondents consist of people of different ethnicity and culture. We try to conduct a fair and thorough research and give justice to our topic. Target population: COVID-19 patients from all over the India, and sampling unit: COVID-19 patients with or without tuberculosis. Sampling stream: list of people affected by COVID-19 in India, which may or may not have been affected by the tuberculosis. Sampling scheme: stratified sampling, dividing the population into various strata, followed by collection of results from each of the strata. We then interpret the results obtained and draw a fair conclusion. Stratified sampling method is chosen by partitioning the population into subpopulation with the same characteristic. A sample population that best represents the entire population being studied is called stratified random sampling. It divides the entire population into homogeneous groups called strata. One advantage of stratified random sampling includes the minimized sample selection bias. In our research, stratified sampling is used since it is most convenient by dividing the population into subgroups. The same characteristic subgroup in our research are COVID-19 patients suffering from tuberculosis and COVID-19 patients with no trace of TB. Stratified sampling requires population to be categorized into one subgroup of same characteristics. Reliability and validity. Reliability refers to how consistently a method measures something. If the same result can be consistently achieved by using the same method under the same circumstances, the measurement is considered reliable. The validity of a research study refers to how well the research results among the study participants represent true findings among similar individuals outside the study. The reliability includes a question such as: does your result remain consistent all the time? Do they produce the same result if different contexts are taken into consideration? If the measurement of all the questions are the same? The validity includes the question cover all the aspects of measure that being measured. Does it correlate well with all the concepts? In the operational definitions, tuberculosis. Tuberculosis is a disease caused by germs that are spread from person to person through the air. TB usually affects the lungs, but it can also affect the other parts of the body, such as the brain, the kidney, or the spine. A person with TB can die if they do not get treated. And MDR tuberculosis, multi-drug resistant tuberculosis, is caused by the TB bacteria that are resistant to isoniazid and rifampicin, the two most potent TB drugs. These drugs are used to treat all persons with the TB disease. TB experts should be consulted in the treatment of the MDR TB. And the cavitary pulmonary cavitation is a dangerous consequence of the pulmonary TB associated with poor outcomes, treatment relapse, higher transmission rates, and development of the drug resistance. However, in the antibiotic era, cavities are often identified as the extreme outcome of treatment failure and are one of the least studied aspects of the TB. And tuberculosis outside the lung. TB infection developed in areas outside the lung, such as the small glands that form part of the immune system, the lymph node, the bones and joints, the digestive system and the bladder, and the reproductive system, and brain and nerves.
The questionnaire. It includes age, sex, level of education, working status, nutritional status, history of contact to patients with MDR-TB and TB, history of contact to patients with COVID-19, smoking, alcohol consumption, cavitary pulmonary, diabetes mellitus, have you ever got COVID-19, how severe on a scale of 1 to 5. This is our dummy table. Hypothetical interpretation of the result. COVID-19 could impact TB control in several ways, including increasing transmission of TB in the household, delaying the diagnosis and treatment of TB, and increasing poor treatment outcomes and risk of developing drug-resistant TB. Patients who are infected with COVID-19 should be placed in quarantine. They should be treated with sterilized instruments, and the person who is treating them should cover his or her face with mask and should be sanitized in order to prevent the spread of TB. The patient should be monitored accordingly in order to check for their health conditions. We assume that people who are affected with COVID-19 will have their immune system affected. So due to this, the patient is prone to many infectious diseases, including tuberculosis. This has been somewhat proved in some of the researchers, but like the same scenario or the vice versa. So in the end, we can conclude that immunocompromised patients have a high chance of getting infectious diseases. So patients who are affected with COVID-19 have a chance that they will get tuberculosis. So this is our budget. An estimation of revenue and expenses over a specified future period of that is re-evaluated on periodic basis. Items, estimated expense. Personnel, $30, equipment, $15, supplies, $10, communication, $10, data collection, $35, totally $100. These are group members.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, again, summarize your research protocol. What does it want to do?
Doctor, this research is about finding whether tuberculosis is one of the effects of post-COVID infection. Since we know tuberculosis is a disease that we all have been fighting since a very long time, and after COVID infection, we just want to find out that if they are related, or if a serious post-COVID infection can cause tuberculosis or not.
Or tuberculosis is makes one susceptible to get COVID. Okay, so those are two different things. Okay, next group. How many groups do we have left?
We are group 14. The topic of our research is effect of financial status and religious motivation on the tendency to seek healthcare among Indians. Introduction. The aim of this research is to examine how financial status and religious beliefs affect the tendency of seeking healthcare. Healthcare pertains to the health services provided to maintain and improve one's health. It involves preventing, diagnosing, and treating mental and physical illnesses, diseases, and injuries. Healthcare is conventionally regarded as an important determinant in promoting the general physical, mental, and social well-being of people around the world and can contribute to a significant part of a country's economy, development, and industrialization when efficient. Financial status plays an important role as the individuals either living in poverty are more likely to have problems in accessing healthcare and have lower rates of healthcare utilization as compared to individuals who can afford it, which affects their overall health condition. It is a huge challenge for health professionals in understanding the patient's religious and spiritual beliefs when making medical decisions, as it impacts many aspects like refusal of certain treatments or diet, asceticism, mortification, and oppressive traditionalism. Research problem. Does the financial status and cultural beliefs significantly influence the tendency to seek healthcare? Objectives. General objective. To examine the relationship between financial status and religious beliefs on the tendency to seek healthcare. Specific objectives. To determine the demographics of the respondents, to determine if any significant relationship exists between the demographics and the tendency to seek healthcare, to ascertain if financial status and cultural beliefs are significant contributors towards a tendency to seek healthcare.
Hypothesis.
H0 null hypothesis. There is no significant relationship between the financial status and the religious beliefs and the tendency to seek the health cares. In HA or the alternate hypothesis, there is a significant relationship between the financial status and the religious beliefs and the tendency to seek the health cares. In significance and the scope of the study, as it pertains to human dignity, everyone is entitled to the health care. Like any other basic element of the life, healthcare sustain us and should ideally always be accessible and affordable for the everyone. The consequences of the being uninsured are significant in the today's world. Uninsured or the impoverished patient do not receive the right care in the right place. They are up to 4 times as likely as insured patient to require the easily avoidable hospitalization and the emergency care. This study will significantly help in identifying the correlation between the affordability and the tendency to seek the adequate health care. In limitation of the study is confined to the Indian population. It doesn't factors in the differences in the output of this research that may occur by including the more diverse sample population. In conceptual framework, in a profile, first one is gender, second one is age. In that, the financial status and the religious motivation, and second one is a tendency to the seek the healthcare. Thank you.
Literature review. We'll be reviewing the literature pertaining to the research topic. The first one is financial health as a measurable social determinant of health. So this is taken from Vidya E.V. and Patel F. Financial health as a measurable social determinant of health. The link of the same is given in the PPT. A series of logistical regressions were utilized to understand the relationship between components of financial health, depression, and self-related health. The statistical analysis made use of the full phase 2 baseline samples. A total of 372 patients were used, consisting participants recruited between 2015 to 2017. A significant association were found with either the spend or save domains. None of the covariates were themselves associated with either having significant depressive symptoms or fair poor physical health. Conclusion: since there was strong association between financial health and health outcomes, it was implied that financial health could be conceived as a measured key for social determinant of health. The second one is exploring the relationship between the socio-economic status and health as its effects on men and women. Taylor S. Eagle 2017. It consists of 125 subject adults between the age of 18 to 65 from a primary care clinic that primarily served those of low socioeconomic status in northern Florida. The low socioeconomic status have been found to adversely affect the physical and mental health of men and women. Sought to explore the relationship between lower socioeconomic status and the physical and mental health differences between the males and females. Women and men living in poverty have greater rates of chronic illnesses such as diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. Mental illnesses are also faced by this population at a higher rate, with socioeconomic status found to be a direct risk factor for mood disorders. Religion, spirituality, and health, the research and clinical implications. Coing Edge 2022, Religion, Spirituality, and Health, the research and clinical implications. Article. This paper provides a review of literature on religion, spirituality, and mental physical health. This research explained how and why religion, spirituality might affect the mental and physical health of a person. Ratings of each of more than 3,300 studies were made on a scale of 0 to 10 and were performed by a single examiner to ensure rating consistency. The research showed that people who are more religious, spiritual, have better mental health and adapt more quickly to health problems compared to those who are less religious and spiritual.
Research design, it helps how to collect and analyze data. It is based on correlational design. The correlation reflects a string. the direction of relationship between two or more variables. The direction of correlation can either be positive or negative. The relationship between variables is indicated by correlation coefficient. It represents a single number that describes the strength or direction of the relationship between the two variables. It helps to quantify the degree of relationship between the two variables. The Pearson product moment correlation coefficient. It is the strength and direction of association that exists between two variables measured on at least an interval scale. It is commonly used for assessing a linear relationship between two qualitative variables. The inclusion and exclusion criteria. They define the characteristics that prospective subjects must have if they are to be included in a study. For the inclusion criteria, examples like Indian nationals belonging to a wide range of financial income and Indians belonging to various cultural beliefs. For the exclusion criteria, examples like respondents working in or having close family members working in healthcare sectors were excluded due to bias in easy access to healthcare services. The data collection and management. It describes the organization, storage, preservation, and sharing of data collected and used in research project. It evolves the management of research data during the lifetime of research project. Examples like research conducted by administering online surveys to comply with COVID-19 regulations through Google Forms. The financial status was determined by asking the participants to select the appropriate income group. The religious motivation was determined with the help of a religious motivation questionnaire having 26 items. The participants rated on a 5-point scale, not at all, mostly not, yes, no, mostly yes, completely yes, the degree to which each statement reflects their religious motivation. This is a table showing religious motivation questionnaire. The important domains are ultimate value, social expectations, wish fulfillment, cultural tradition, emotional ideas, and mortality. The maximum score should be 130. This is a table showing of demographic information. It is classified on the basis of gender, age group, and income group. Thank you.
Data analysis. Data organized and analyzed with help of SPSS to find and establish the magnitude and direction of the relationship between the quantitative variables. Ethical considerations. Research participants were not subjected to harm in any way. Respect for research participants was prioritized. Full consent was obtained from the participants prior to the study. The protection of the privacy of research participants was ensured. Adequate level of confidentiality of the research was ensured. Anonymity of individuals participating in the research was ensured. Any deception or exaggeration about the aims and objectives of the research was avoided. Affiliation in any form, sources of funding, as well as any possible conflicts of interest were declared. Results and conclusions. There was a significant relationship between the financial status and the tendency to seek the healthcare. A higher income corresponded to a greater likeliness of seeking adequate healthcare services. This is because income plays a major role in affordability of health services. Participants having a greater religious motivations were less likely to seek healthcare services. This is because the decision to seek medical services is influenced by deeply inserted cultural beliefs and values. Thank you.
Why not choose one variable, financial or religious, so that you will not have difficulty in isolating which would be the reason why healthcare behavior is affected. Okay? Whenever you do a study, isolate one reason only. Okay?
Okay, doctor.
So that would, you could revise it a bit. You remove one aspect of your study and it will still be fine. It will be better actually. Okay? Can we have one more group? Then we will continue next week. One more group, then we'll have it next week, the rest.
And Dr. I will start it.
There's no sound. Could you fix audio? Can you fix the audio?
Yes, Dr.
Mhm.
Is it audible now?
other than condoms among JFSM students. Hello everyone. Today group 15 is going to present their research on awareness and familiarity towards contraceptive devices other than condoms among JFSM students. Next slide please. Birth control, also known as contraception or fertility control, is a method or device which is used to prevent unintended pregnancy. Birth control has been present since ancient times, but it was only in the 20th century that effective and safe methods of birth control were available. Family planning includes planning, making available, and using birth control, but some cultures find birth control to be morally, religiously, or politically undesirable, and hence limit or discourage access to birth control. Contraceptive devices play a major role in birth control, and although sterilization is a more effective method than contraceptive devices, they are more costly. Keeping all this in mind, in this research, we aim to find out the level of awareness and familiarity towards contraceptive devices other than condoms in UPHST. The scope of the study focuses on determination of the level of awareness and familiarity towards contraceptive devices other than condoms among the students of JFSM and UPHST. The type of study this research employed is a descriptive comparative type research where we compare the level of awareness and familiarity towards other contraceptive devices with the level of awareness and familiarity towards condoms and see if the respondents are aware of other contraceptives. The subjects of this research were the students of JFSM. The study was observed for a period of 2 weeks. The statement of Hello everyone. Today group 15 is going to present their research on awareness and familiarity towards contraceptive devices other than condoms among JFSM students. Next slide please. Birth control, also known as contraception or fertility control, is a method or device which is used to prevent unintended pregnancy. Birth control has been present since ancient times, but it was only in the 20th century that effective and safe methods of birth control were available. Family planning includes planning, making available, and using birth control, but some cultures find birth control to be morally, religiously, or politically undesirable, and hence limit or discourage access to birth control. Contraceptive devices play a major role in birth control, and although sterilization is a more effective method than contraceptive devices, they are more costly. Keeping all this in mind, in this research, we aim to find out the level of awareness and familiarity towards contraceptive devices.
Sorry for the people cost of the railway.
What's happening?
The video is not. I will.
Do you want it next week? It's time. Do you have next class? Do you have Pato?
No, doctor. We have surgery exam.
What?
We have surgery exam 3 p.m. Doctor. No patho.
Do you want to continue?
Yes, doctor. We can still do one group, doctor.
Okay, continue. Try to make it work.
Doctor, group 19 wants to present.
Let 16 go first.
Okay, you may go.
Hello everyone. Today group 15 is going to present their research on awareness and familiarity towards contraceptive devices other than condoms among JFSM students. Next slide, please. Birth control, also known as contraception or fertility control, is a method or device which is used to prevent unintended pregnancy. Birth control has been present since ancient times, but it was only in the 20th century that effective and safe methods of birth control were available. Family planning includes planning, making available, and using birth control, but some cultures find birth control to be morally, religiously, or politically undesirable, and hence limit or discourage access to birth control. Contraceptive devices play a major role in birth control, and although sterilization is a more effective method than contraceptive devices, they are more costly. Keeping all this in mind, in this research, we aim to find out the level of awareness and familiarity towards contraceptive devices other than condoms in UPHST. The scope of the study focuses on determination of the level of awareness and familiarity towards contraceptive devices other than condoms among the students of JFSM and UPHSD. The type of study this research employed is a descriptive comparative type research where we compare the level of awareness and familiarity towards other contraceptive devices with the level of awareness and familiarity towards condoms and see if the respondents are aware of other contraceptives. The subjects of this research were the students of JFSM. The study was observed for a period of 2 weeks. The statement of the problem are the following. First, what are the elements to be considered by women, men, or couples at any given point in their lifetimes when choosing the most appropriate contraceptive method? The elements to be considered include safety, effectiveness, availability, including accessibility and affordability, and also acceptability of women, men, or couples at their any given point of life while they're choosing the most appropriate contraceptive method for them. Second, what are the familiar contraceptive devices other than condoms? Methods of contraception that are available include implants, intrauterine devices, injections, pills, vaginal rings, barrier methods, sterilization, emergency contraception, and natural methods. These methods have different mechanisms of action and effectiveness in preventing unintended pregnancy. Third, why we should be aware of other contraceptive methods over condoms. While condoms have an 18% failure rate with actual use, only 1 woman out of 100 using an IUD became pregnant in the first year. The pill is more effective at preventing pregnancy than condoms with a 9% failure rate in actual use and 3% in perfect use. Contraceptive devices are a convenient method of birth control because once inserted, you don't have to think about them for 3 to 5 years. Next slide. The research objectives are the following. The general objective is the aim of this research is to determine the level of awareness and familiarity of the JFSM students towards other contraceptive devices over condoms and to identify which ways we can educate about them. The specific objectives are first to carry out a survey with JFSM students with our prepared questionnaire on awareness and familiarity towards other contraceptive devices over condoms. Second, to find out the level of awareness and familiarity towards other contraceptive devices over condoms. Third, to examine and compare the level of awareness and familiarity in both cases and determine the results. And last, to identify which ways we can educate if they have any wrong beliefs or awareness about contraceptive devices. The hypothesis states that the students should have a significant amount of knowledge about awareness and familiarity towards contraceptive devices other than condoms, and it is necessary. The null hypothesis states that there is no significant amount of knowledge about awareness and familiarity towards contraceptive devices other than condoms among JFSM students in UPHSD. And the alternative hypothesis states that there is significant amount of knowledge about awareness and familiarity towards contraceptive devices other than condoms among JFSM students in UPHSD.
Significance of the study. This research will provide how far the students have knowledge about the contraceptive devices other than condoms, and also we can get to know what are the familiar contraceptive devices known among the students of JFSM other than condoms and how far they are aware of it. This research will convey valuable information for future research that will teach and educate and make more awareness regarding the contraceptive devices other than condoms among JFSM students if necessary. Also, this research will be useful for those who are not from JFSM. The study and its results will give important information about the contraceptive devices, which are useful for people who are less aware of other contraceptive devices. Literature review. The research paper by Kazuyo Fauzia Akhtar Huda, Faisal Ahmed, George Odwi, Francis Obare, Joyce N. Muma, Marlene Wamukoya, John B. Castellan, and John Cleland, which was published on 8th May 2018, demonstrated us how the women from specific spots in Bangladesh and Kenya had attitudes and beliefs on contraceptives. The research is limited to only women. It could have been better if they had included men also. Since men also need to be aware of contraceptive devices, this research gave us an idea on how to conduct a research, methods to be used, data collection and analysis. So as we conduct our research, we will use the principles what we learned from this research. Another published research paper on 13th October 2021 by Shalan Atuher, Jonas Jenda Kumana, Ali Galadima, Ayub Adam, Roderick B. Mudarba demonstrated us how the adolescents from specific countries in Africa had knowledge and attitudes towards contraceptive devices. The research should have also included women of other ages, as it will provide a better understanding about knowledge and attitudes. Though by recalling what we learned from this paper, we got some specific instructions and procedures on how to conduct the research. The published research paper on 29 May 2019 by Upuli Pereira and Krishanta Abhiyasena demonstrated us how the Sri Lankan undergraduates from state universities of Western Province had knowledge and attitudes towards contraceptive devices. One drawback from this research is that it is only limited to Sri Lankan undergraduates, where we think that foreign graduates included, though we got some useful methods and opinions from this research, and we think that it will come in handy when we conduct our research.
So next is the methodology. First, research design. The research design of our study is descriptive comparative type, wherein we get to know the awareness and familiarity towards contraceptive devices other than condoms among JFSM students in UPHSD. The research is based on a constant questioning process. The respondents will be given a questionnaire which is acquired from the authors who use them for their research. Second, the study population. Sample size of the study was expected to be around 150 JFSM students in UPHSD, which fulfill the sampling criteria. Randomly selected JFSM students, considering inclusion and exclusion criteria, was thought to be the most appropriate for the study. The respondents are grouped according to their demographic profiles like age, gender, and family monthly income. So the inclusion criteria. The subjects included are only from JFSM students in UPHSD. The subjects will be of any age, but they should be a JFSM student. The study subjects will be those who are only willing to participate in the study. The exclusion criteria. Students not from the JFSM in UPHSD will not be included in the study. The subjects who are not willing to participate in the study. The data collection methods. Our questionnaire consists of close-ended questions. It will be distributed as a Google form to our respondents through WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, Viber, and email. This research is conducted through online in view of COVID-19 pandemic. Reliability and validity. Our survey was made by reviewing the questionnaires of several authors, through some of them were prepared by us. So we did a pilot test for our survey, and the results showed that they are reliable. The survey measures the level of awareness and familiarity towards the contraceptive devices and condoms and not anything else. So it is valid. Operational definitions. Contraceptive devices. A contraceptive device is a device which a person uses in order to avoid unwanted pregnancies. There are many types of contraceptive devices like hormonal pills, hormonal patches, intrauterine devices, Nuva ring, and so on. Condom. A condom is a thin, loose-fitting pouch or a sheath that protects against sexually transmitted diseases or infections. As a barrier method of birth control, condoms prevent pregnancy by keeping semen from entering the vagina and fertilizing the eggs. Data processing and analysis. The respondents will answer the questionnaire by filling the appropriate items. After completing the questionnaire, we will record the responses using Google Forms. According to the responses for our questionnaire, the data will be analyzed given the exploratory nature of the study. The researchers developed a survey
to collect demographic characters and information pertaining to purpose of the study. The study quantitatively and qualitatively assessed for JFSM students' knowledge about contraceptive devices other than condoms, how they are aware and familiar towards the contraceptive devices other than condoms. So we can analyze the data we gathered and release the results accordingly. This study also uses SPSS in order to check the frequency and mean of the responses and check the level of awareness. It also uses one-way ANOVA test, which is used to determine the p-value and finalize that the variables are significant or not. So this is the dummy table followed by questionnaire, frequency table, and one-way ANOVA table used in the research.
Hypothetical interpretation of results. The research was aimed to be performed on JFSM students in order to check their awareness and familiarity towards contraceptive devices other than condoms. We have hypothetically interpreted the results as we don't have time to conduct our research. The dummy tables of the questionnaire and SPSS are shown above, which was aimed to be used for our research. We used the SPSS in order to determine the frequency, mean, and p-value of our research results, and we can compare the level of awareness and familiarity of both contraceptive devices and condoms. If we conducted our research, we would have used these tables, but since our respondents are medical students, most of them will be aware of other contraceptive devices as they are aware with condoms. But there may be a few of them who will be unaware of other contraceptive devices because they wouldn't have heard about it. And it may vary according to demographic profiles like age, gender, and family monthly income. It's like, since this research is conducted on medical students, we can expect results like this. But when considering about the general public, the results will vary drastically according to their demographic profiles. So the people should also be need to aware of the contraceptive devices others in order to live a better life. Oral birth control pills and the medroxyprogesterone shot are among the least expensive birth control options. Mostly IUDs are very effective and their impact is also long term, so people should be aware of it. They can also use a diaphragm or contraceptive cap, which is similar to condoms and can and it is reusable unlike condoms, so it can be considered as an alternative to condoms. Also, other than us, the government should also need to take a step to educate people in order to make people aware of contraception and birth control.
Timetable. This is the timetable which we can use in this model. These are planning, research, design, implementation, following up. Next slide. Personnel and facilities. Personnel are salaried employees who primarily related to the scientific research, engineering design and analysis, problem solving, technology transfer to industry, or special education and human services field-based programs. In our research, the work of the research were carried by the members of our group. So there was not necessary for us to hire the personnel, so we did not hire anyone. Facilities. Research facilities means those facilities, buildings, equipment, furnishings, and other improvements operated for research and development purposes, together with any additions, repairs, renewals, replacement, expansions, extensions, and improvement thereof hereafter occurred constructed. We used only questionnaire that we prepared using the previously conducted research and some questions of our own. So other than that, no facilities are used for our research since the research was conducted in online. Next slide. Budget. Only a stable internet connection was required in order to complete our research. Since our research was conducted in online and we didn't need any personal facilities and transportation except for questionnaire. So we put a total budget of $5 per month for the start of our research till our research is completed. So from the start of our research till end, approximately $35 to $40 were spent for our research. These are the persons, prospects biodata. These are the biodatas.
Okay, thank you. So simple research.
These are the
you're just
references
looking
we
at
used here.
contraceptive awareness of GFSM students. So your research should not be very complicated and you are able to get relevant information. Okay? We will resume next week. How many groups are